Hello everybody and welcome to What's the Quack. And I just hit me fucking thing. I'm blaming Snoop for that. It's that bracelet I got from Snoop's cremation. I banged it off the desk.
Oh, you got a bracelet?
Yeah, it's this little kind of memorial bracelet you can get. What they do is they put their ashes inside it.
Oh.
So yeah, I just thought that was a lovely little gesture there, so I can actually have her on my wrist essentially.
That makes me feel things that I don't feel comfortable feeling.
Me too, lad. But anyway, yeah, we'll crack on there before we get those fucking gay emotions.
Yep.
Hello everybody and welcome to What's the Quack. I'm your host, Ducky, and joining me today is the ever wonderful, ever magnificent, ever mysterious PJ. Say hello, PJ.
Hello, PJ. Thanks very much, Dicky. That was lovely.
Welcome back to the podcast, lad. Good to have you back. Had a lot of people asking for you.
God knows why, but sure, here I am anyway.
Yeah, you're a fan favourite. It won't be long now before you take over this. This channel is just you, and you'll be introducing the next one. Welcome to What's the Quack. I'm your host, PJ, and joining me today is Ducky.
By the sounds of it, I've more fans on your fucking channel than I do my own.
Good group of lads there now. Huh? They recognise high quality men when they see them, just like me, you know.
Well, you always had an eye for a high quality man.
Yeah, no top shelf man.
Yeah,
it's expensive, but it's quality. You know, you can't argue with the cost. Then
that's it. You're now an expert in pipes, so you are.
Yeah, that's it. I'd rather buy a one-off man and have it last me the rest of my life now than buy cheap old men from the old man shop for £2 a pop and they haven't break within a week. You know,
foreigners like importing them yokes from abroad. You know,
you know what you're getting. Them old Chinese made men. You couldn't ride them, and it'd be broken a week.
No, well, sure, look, that's why we're in the fucking state we're currently in, isn't it? Okay, Jesus, we were getting into fucking dodgy territory here now. Well, I think I can speak on behalf of both of us here now. Neither of us have nothing against the Chinese.
Death to China.
Yeah, like, what the fuck would we do if we didn't have Chinese takeaways? Like, a 4-in-1, like, that's...
the greatest thing to ever hit Ireland since the taco chip.
Yeah, that's Irish cuisine in a nutshell for you there, really, isn't it?
Right, what I'll do is I'm going to turn it over to some questions here. We've had a lot of people asking some questions on a post I did a couple of weeks ago there, so I've narrowed down a few. We'll see if we can blitz through some of them, but I've narrowed down to the more interesting ones.
You must have, like, what, 2 questions or something?
2 questions that I wrote myself here just so you didn't feel bad.
Just a load of asinine fucking toss.
Pedro, what's your favourite food?
Gold.
Right, this one comes from the new newbie on Twitter and says, how many times did you reject girls? Now, that's a question I just thought was interesting because a lot of the time you hear it from the other side where, you know, women rejecting fellas. So, and especially you, because I know you can be very picky with women. And it's not necessarily a rejecting them. I can speak that much for you. It's just you don't pursue them even if they have a general interest.
Well, in terms of, you know, how many times has that occurred, I don't know. It's definitely occurred. I can think of like once or twice in my head, but Jesus, it would be a blatant fucking lie if I were to say that, you know, it was something I was doing on any kind of a regular basis. Especially nowadays, because we're pretty much dead. Like, yeah, back in the day, like I remember it happening at a very odd time. I just would basically act as if it wasn't happening because a lot of the time I wasn't even aware that it was happening. I've been told I haven't got a clue if someone is cracking on or something like that because it's just been pointed out to me a few times. So I generally just act like that's not what's really occurring, and you know, I start talking about something like politics maybe or a bit of philosophy, who knows, some fucking type of shite that I'm likely to start ranting on about. Generally speaking, that's not the case. But anytime that I can think of anyways, I've just, you know, wasn't even fully aware it was fucking happening, to be quite honest. So I guess if you can act like that, do that because it's worked thus far, I think.
There is a certain attraction that women have to fellas that may not show as much interest as other fellas. You find women find that kind of intriguing. They're kind of drawn in by a fella that's maybe not showing them as much interest as fellas normally do. But I will say, in terms of rejecting girls, I think it's just for men in general, it's such an abstract, absurd thought for a woman to be attracted to a man without the fella acting on it himself. That's so absurd. We'd end up rejecting women without even knowing. That'd never even come into mind.
I think I can remember actually, I think maybe did I mention it on one of your podcasts before, but there was this one time I remember was like a story I heard back off someone where said girl who had gotten said rejection didn't take kindly to it, was telling blatant lies about me. So there was that, but that particular time I remember, like, you know, there was a few factors into it. I wasn't really pushed for whatever reason, you know, I just didn't think your one was particularly attractive or whatever. This was something that was occurring in the late hours of the morning, and we were all out down in Cork one night years ago, and then we all ended up back at one of the lads' gaff. It was this girl, and it was kind of looking like that was going someplace, and then in my own head I was kind of like, not really into it. And I fucked off to sleep on the couch or something like that. Woke up later on then and that girl was kind of like, you know, trying to make more of it. Not a lick of interest. I wanted to go back to sleep. So I got up and I fucked off. Essentially, I just went home. I didn't really give too much thought, good, bad or indifferent really, to what way she was going to take it really. Like I kind of said before, I just upped and fucked off. It wasn't suiting me, so I went away.
You give it such little thought that it didn't even pop into your mind much, I'd say.
That's it, yeah. I was kind of like, here's a nuisance situation I'd rather not be in. I'm away, you know. And look, fair enough, maybe I mishandled it. But in the wake of that, your one saw fit anyways to tell a bunch of the lads. She didn't tell a bunch of lads. She told a few friends of hers whom told a friend of mine.
Which might as well have been a bunch of lads.
Yeah. That's it. That she had since met me out one night and that I was cracking on to her mad and that she was having none of it. And she was like, oh no, go away from me. Like, and I was like, what? I didn't even remember what this fucking one looked like. And I was hearing this shit back. And I was like, right.
Sure, look, whatever helps her save face, you know, that's probably all that was.
Yeah, that's it. Like within that whole realm of stuff, couldn't tell you what it is now that women go for in lads, because there's such variance insofar as what I can tell that I can't really kind of go, you know, X, Y, and Z, do those things and that'll work all the time. You know, there's no rhyme or reason to it, basically. They're all just so fucking vastly different, where I think men are much more simplistic. Like, even if you're talking about, like, you know, sheer physicality, like, it doesn't really fucking matter after that what they're into necessarily. But, like, if you said, you know, physically a man wants X, Y, and Z, 98% of cases, I would say you were probably fucking spot on. That'll appeal right across the board. But one thing, just from the female perspective, one thing that I never fucking understood, like, and I've known a good few of them, are these lads that basically they live up in their horn or something like that. They never stop thinking about the fucking ride. Jesus Christ almighty, there's something a bit fucking pathetic about it. Like, I remember, like, a few lads at a certain age, most lads are like that to varying degrees, but, you know, even as they got older, it didn't really back off. Say, when lads generally kind of past 30 and that, they're kind of not, they don't live at the mercy of needing the ride as badly anymore.
Yeah, as I recall, I think it was maybe about 27, 28 where it started to fucking peter off, where you could actually kind of go, you know what, no, I can outthink this now.
Well, yeah, like for me, you could start to see kind of like, here's how much hassle this is going to cause you, and here's how much you actually want it. And it's like, yeah, there. And now the scales were kind of balanced out, and now they've been dipping the direction of too much hassle. But even these kind of lads now, that kind of thing never really backed off for them. And I don't know, is it more a psychological thing?
I'd say it's probably insecurity that keeps you going at that point. Like,
yeah, like their only measure of themselves is how many fucking young ones they get with or something like that. And I know a few of them, and they're kind of sex pests, basically. I always kind of fucking looked at it and I was like, do you know something? I'd rather never, ever get a fucking ride ever again than carry on like that for fucking 5 minutes.
I suppose the other side of it, now just to play devil's advocate, is like, me and you over the years have had women relatively frequently, to the point that we've never really stressed about it too much. But could you imagine having living most of our like adult lives or even late teen lives not getting sex whatsoever, or, you know, it being a rarity? Would that be something we'd chase more? Because nowadays there's more and more lads that are basically not coming off the internet, more mature and not losing their virginity. 23, 24, some of them even approaching 30, and they hadn't got their load away in a young one at all yet. And you're like, Jesus, if at that stage now, I remember panicking when I was fucking 16. Probably says more about the kind of friends I was hanging out with at the time, but I remember panicking when I hit 16 that I hadn't lost my fucking virginity yet.
16, Jesus.
Yeah, could you imagine carrying that into 30 though? That's bound to build up a lot of fucking insecurities.
Yeah, you know, then you hear of these people that are asexual.
They're asexual?
They are, yeah. Funnily enough, they're not. They have no interest at all.
Well, it really depends on how high of a pedestal you put it on yourself. Because when I was 16, 17, it was the fucking the end all and be all of the lads I was hanging around with at the time, you know?
Groups of lads, it's all like fucking
it's competition, yeah, that's it.
And ego games. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, I'm clearly the biggest man here if I can fucking, if I've done what men do and fucking ride women more than the rest of you. Aye.
Oh, there was a certain amount of status that would go with it in a group of lads, alright, yeah.
Yeah, you'd go up a rung or two on the pecking order, as it were. But with that said, I don't know, I think you can look at it a little bit forgivingly with young fellas of that age. But Jesus, I've seen lads that are still carrying on like this, and like some part of their self-worth is just fucking bound to it, whether or not they're like, some of them as well, I know, like, can't be out of relationships and they have to have some girl on their arm that presumably other men will be into Otherwise, they're going around mopey and depressed. And I'm like, oh, you fucking pathetic bastard.
Well, certain lads do treat a good-looking girl as like a trophy, but yeah, I think that some lads just they need to talk to somebody if they're in their 30s or 40s or 50s and they're still fucking foaming at the mouth for the want. Like, as you get some people and they're in pretty happy relationships, and they'd openly say happy relationships, but they're still off fucking cheating on their missus or their boyfriend every other day of the week.
Oh, that's it. Like, yeah, like
it's like, how happy could you be if you're heading out to the shop to get something when you have food in the press there? The exact same stuff, you know?
Yeah, like recently enough, it came to light through a conversation with some people I know that this other person that we knew was having an affair. I won't give the person's gender or any information at all about it.
I'll get to details after the podcast.
You will, of course. But we all kind of got a bit of morbid curiosity then, and kind of, as you know, as a fucking cynical, nihilistic bastard, I tend to kind of like, my ears tend to perk up when something comes up that is going to strengthen my worldview. So I'm like, oh, is this a bit of confirmation bias? Oh, sure, go on, yeah. So we cynically looked up this person's Facebook page, and this person's married with kids, the whole 9 yards. You know, even the boys here in the house, they see me as a bit of a cynic when it comes to relationships and everything in that realm, and they'd be right, you know. Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, there you go now. Look at that, lads. Look at all those pictures. Fucking long live love. And that was that anyways. But, you know, my cynicism on romance aside,
I would say your cynicism on romance would certainly be justified from like teenagehood and 20s. But I think like a level-headed fella and a level-headed girl aged them up a bit so they're a bit more mature. And I think a relationship can be plenty happy.
Yeah, like I'll tell you, when lads are younger as well, I kind of think they can kind of have what you might consider like a bad attitude towards women and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, what age will teach you fairly fucking quickly is it's not an issue of kind of like, you know, oh, well, women are hard to deal with or men are hard to deal with. People right across the board are a fucking pain in the arse, man. They're fucking regardless of fucking age, gender, sexual orientation, fucking, you know, the gays don't have it any fucking easier. They're just living with other fucking people who are a fucking massive pain in the arse as well. And I kind of think I'm kind of at an age now where, you know, I gave that game a fucking go a few times and I just plumb have no fucking interest in it anymore because I know I'm an insufferable bastard. So one, I don't want to be inflicting myself and fucking anyone else. And two, I don't want to be fucking dealing with anyone else's fucking shite either.
I already have an analysis of you in relationships.
Oh.
If you found a girl who was like level-headed, easy to talk to, mature, intelligent, you know, kind of perfect across the board, she would bore the fucking arse off you. You need broken and fucked up to make it anyway entertaining to yourself.
Maybe at a point in time, but I think now where I'm at,
you changed in the last few years by all means, but just seeing your track record, you've often said it's just like she's a fucking head wreck, but she's tasty though.
Yeah, like look, I've definitely let the Mickey do an awful lot of fucking thinking. Yeah, most fellas are definitely guilty of that, and like we were saying earlier on, the younger you are, I think as a man you're often, you know, there's a large chunk of your ego that is fucking tied up with that whole thing. I was criticizing those lads earlier on that were like, oh yeah, look, I have to have a good looking girl in my arm. I'm definitely guilty of that to some fucking degree as well, or I had been in the past rather.
Just kind of like achievements unlocked with the boys if you can get off with a good looking girl. Pats on the back all around. Yeah. Well done, you've accomplished something. You've accomplished something that's rare enough. You've gotten yourself a tasty looking girl. Because, you know, not shitting on women, but most women, like most men, are average looking at best.
I suppose if there were more class people, it would just like create within that spectrum of class people, there'd still be the 10% out of them that were classer than the rest of the class people. So the standard would be higher, but we'd still have our own class system within that. Yeah, it's a very petty fucking thing, and that selection process in the past has kind of always led to fucking nothing but aggro. Because, like, you know, on one hand you're kind of like, yeah, if I'm going out with this one, that means I'm winning the game of big man, you know. But then, like, when something actually fucking, some real issue props up and you're dealing with someone, and then you suddenly realize your worldview is completely and utterly fucking juvenile, and I can't take anything you're saying to me seriously. You know, then you're bollocksed and you realize I've been fucking selecting for the wrong things.
The longer you're with somebody, the more the less their looks matter over time, or the less you can actually see them. Like you can take a 10 out of 10 absolute fucking bombshell of a girl, but after about 3 or 4 months, you're not going to find her nearly as attractive as you did at the beginning. Not that she's gotten any less attractive, it's just you've gotten used to it and the novelty wears off. And that old fucking phrase rings true then: behind every pretty girl there's a fella fella's sick of fucking her. And if she has fuck all else to offer other than her looks, you know, if your personality doesn't gel at all, or, you know, she has worldviews that you find completely abhorrent, then yeah, of course you're going to have shit like that happen after a few months.
Yeah, but even say, like, let's talk about more kind of ideal scenarios even. Like, and even more kind of like, just say for the most part, you see eye to eye with this person and you get on and you respect each other and all that. People to me are still such a fucking pain in the arse because we're all driven by ego to a sickening extent. And like now anything you do can be taken to someone else as, you know, some kind of an infringement upon their ego. And you're dealing with that then, and then your ego is getting out of fucking whack and you're just playing this battle of egos, and it's very fucking tiring. As someone who will admit to being a bit of a fucking egotist, I get disgusted at my own egotism sometimes, and then just dealing with someone else's on top of it is just like, I don't know, it's just a bit too much. You know, it never fucking ends well. And
well, see, it just really depends on your view of it, because there was a phrase I heard years and years ago, and that was stuck with me, and it was a relationship is not about making each other happy, it's about equalizing each other's misery.
Yeah,
it's more about kind of having a bit of company to kind of share your misery with, in a sense, which is a kind of a dark view of it. But if you kind of go in armed with that kind of knowledge, then it makes relationships a lot more tolerable, because you're not expecting so much from the other person. You're not expecting them to make you happy. You're just expecting them to be there. And
well, glad you brought it up, because yeah, when we're talking about, you know, my specialist topic, misery.
You're leading your field on that topic, lad.
We're
going to get you the old fucking Nobel Peace Prize for that.
Yeah, I'm ruling that fucking town with an iron fist by
PhD in misery.
Yeah, and I'll PJD.
Oh, damn it. Shouldn't have laughed at that.
What was I going to say? It's often about, you'd have some experience with this as well, so maybe you'll have a valuable insight. Say, as you kind of get older and stuff happens, like, you know, parents dying and stuff, you know, I think people, they kind of want the safety and security of kind of having someone to come home to, because all their siblings are off married and whatever. And a lot of the time it's, you know, this fear of being alone. And that's the primary motivator. And you see an awful lot of people, like I know a lot of girls in particular. Now, in fairness, there's other factors with girls and stuff. The time frame in which they have to have their ducks in order if they want to have kids and stuff, say. But we'll focus on that kind of being afraid to be alone type thing. Christ almighty. To say they're selling themselves short in, you know, what they're getting out of something as opposed to what they're putting in would be a dramatic understatement. But I've seen fellas do it too, but I don't know. I've seen more of it in girls anyways. A good few friends that are of the contradictory gender. And yeah, I've seen a lot of them do it in the past and stuff.
You mean like they're settling for lads that they wouldn't otherwise, only for they're just terrified of being alone?
Yeah, for fucking fear. Like, you know, in their head, it's kind of fucking easier or better or more advantageous to be with this fucking parasite of a human being than it is to be alone for some fucking reason. And like I said, there's other factors there, and I can only speculate on them because I've never had to consider them as a man. But, you know, I've seen the fear to be alone thing in people as well. I think I felt it to a certain degree myself when I was younger, but it wasn't an innate kind of a thing. It was, a lot of it I think is this shit that gets drummed into your head from every facet of every fucking media that there is, that kind of puts the emphasis on love and romance and relationships. And I think it's created, you know, like a generation of people, or maybe a couple of fucking generations of people. I don't know how long it's been going. It's been going on a long fucking time, suffice to say. But, you know, this romanticization of fucking romance, I suppose. Turn on the radio and every single fucking song is about romance in some shape or form. Or, you know, maybe it's just about some lad is rapping about, you know, all these girls he was with at the weekend or something like that. We have it drummed into our head from every fucking screen that we have, and we're surrounded by nothing, only screens. And, you know, maybe the radio in the past and the TV, or even poetry and all manner of art, it was all fucking romance and stuff. And I think, I don't know, we've been conditioned to fucking make it the center of our being. That's always kind of seemed a bit sad to me, because we only have a finite amount of time to live. And if you're going to structure your entire universe around how well someone else takes you, it seems like a bit of a waste to me. But look, each to his own. If that's what you're into, knock yourself out.
Yeah, I will hit on that just when you're saying there about like a fear of being alone. That's actually not something that's played into me getting in a relationship anyway, specifically, because even with like my mother dying and the dog dying and all that was stuff I dealt with alone. Basically said to the missus, leave me alone, I'm going to be mopey for a week, I'm going to lock myself in my room. You know, it's that kind of shit I deal with on my own. And I spend most of my day on my own. Like, we have our own designated times. Like, you got to do your shit, I do my shit now. Because we know full well that if you interact too much, you'll just start fucking hating each other, because you'll feel like you're you're getting your time stolen from you rather than you're choosing to hang out with them, you know. Realistically, it depends what you're looking to get out of it. What I get out of it is, with her there, I tend to do things that I wouldn't normally do myself, like going out foreign on a holiday, or, you know, going away for a day or a night in a hotel, stuff like that. Just somebody there to bounce ideas off of her, take the piss out of her, just, you know, socialise with. The ride there as well, which, you know, can't be underrated going forward. That's another big part of it as well. So there's a lot more to it, I find, than just companionship. There's certainly people who do get into relationships for simply companionship, just because it's taboo to be alone, and that's what's been drilled into them their whole life. But I think if you go into a relationship with just that in mind, you're destined to fail. You should never get into a relationship where you're relying on the other person as some sort of emotional crutch, or they're just filling a position that needs to be filled because, you know, society says so. You need to have your own reasons, and, you know, they need to be somewhat pure.
Yeah, it's funny. With my own channel, I came up with this little storyline that I wanted to do about a cynical kind of take on romance that I'm laying the foundation for. The video I'm currently working on, I'm bringing a few new characters into it. One is a romantic interest, I suppose, that the Boy Racer character Declan is going to have. And I'm going to play that out to kind of mirror some experiences I've had, but, you know, it's kind of largely fictional, but I want to play it out as this kind of just very kind of a cynical take on young romance and how egotistical it is, and kind of how we measure ourselves by it.
It's toxic when you're like when you're young in a relationship. Everything is an end of the world fucking slight, you know. There's no such thing as an innocent move.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Like, I remember how fucking badly I used to take things, like in the first kind of relationship I was in. Everything was a reflection upon me, and it was so fucking self-centered. And when you think back on it then, Jesus, yeah, you're in a relationship on paper, but it's all you just being totally self-involved with yourself.
It is, and the level of stress that comes with that, because at least 2 relationships I've had in the past were just toxic, really bad. It was, you know, fucking infidelity, and then born of that was paranoia, and it was just horrible. It was so high stress, over analysing text messages and where you're going and what are you doing and who's this new person on the scene and what you mean by that. So, you know, surprised you don't give yourself a heart attack in your early 20s, like, you know?
Yeah, you definitely take it too seriously. So I suppose, I know we started this as a question kind of thing, but if I was to kind of leave it with like any kind of a little bit of advice at the end of it, it would be kind of a general one towards young romance. And this would be to any young person, be it male or female, because I think it's largely the same. But for the love of God, don't take it too fucking seriously. Jesus.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I remember being a young fella and fucking being properly fucking put out by that nonsense. And it's like,
It is. You'd be like, fucking, yeah, she's after sending a text message there, but there was no X's on the end of it. Gaff Of Lads, we need to discuss about how this breakup is about to happen. Like, it's just fucking, everything was turned up to 20.
That would never cross my mind now, but...
No, but like that kind of petty shit, like, you know, that's just the way it is. But my advice to young men would be, if you think you're going to get cheated on, there's nothing you can do to stop that. And, you know, it's no reflection on you. Turn down your paranoia, because regardless of what you do, if they're going to cheat on you, they're going to cheat on you. You're powerless to prevent that, like, you know, unless you just break up with them.
Yeah, but if that happens as well, something like that happens, I would say, okay, say more generally, let's just say it doesn't go the way that you want it to go and you're very fucking down about it. I kind of think that's what gives people character, is when they kind of get tested and get like a bit of a boot into the ego, and they're kind of made to reflect and kind of look at themselves and go, okay, how did I get myself into this fucking ball of shit situation? I think that's a great kind of a privileged position to be in. I think that's where you get something that's of real value, is good experience to make better decisions moving forward, and to figure things out about yourself that you didn't know before that. Kind of like, oh, so I'm the kind of person that'll take something like this really badly. Now I know that about myself. Maybe I should reflect upon that. You know, maybe there's something there that I don't like or would like to, you know, alter or improve. I think it's a very privileged position to be in. And I remember like saying I remember there was a cousin of mine, and he broke up with a girl he was with for, I don't know, 4 years or something like that. And I remember just saying to him, like, in the wake of it, a day is going to come soon where you're going to look back on this and you'll not only, you know, be all right with it having happened, but you'll be like, thanks be to God that did happen, because what I got out of the experience of that going south was more than what I would have ever gotten out of the bloody thing itself, because there wasn't much to it in reality, or otherwise it would have lasted, and, you know, it didn't.
Yeah, but I'm always a big advocate of multiple relationships over time, because some people, they just find one person and they're with them forever, but you don't get the same life experience of not experiencing a breakup or anything like that. Like, it's... No,
I think, you know, live on your fucking own for a while, you know. Like I said, I think people, they're conditioned to want to live up someone else's fucking arse, basically, their whole fucking adult life. And it's very fucking sad. And I think people just should all fuck off and live for a while by yourselves. Don't commit yourselves to fucking anything. And just live a bit of fucking life and figure out what's what before you go making any presumptions about it. And
yeah, there's certainly a lot of value in being on your own for a while.
Or forever.
You're going to die alone, lad. You're going to die alone.
We all die alone, boy. Don't have any illusions about that, we'll all die alone and unloved.
It was when I broke up the last cunt. Was it I was seeing me at the time, as she's known in the videos, and where she gave me that ultimatum where it's like, listen, we've been riding for a couple of weeks here now, where's this going? Is this going anywhere? And just kind of touches on the topic of reject, where I went, well, I literally just got over a relationship. I'm not getting back into one, not for a while yet. And that was simply it. Shot her down in that regard. And that's just because it's the smart thing to do. Be on your own for a while, gather your fucking thoughts and collect yourself. Give yourself time to let the lessons that you've just learned sink in.
Yeah. Well, certainly just don't fucking need it anyways, because, I know I've known and seen it so much, and I've been guilty of it when I was very young, because, I couldn't make the distinction between actually being invested in something and just some part of my identity and my ego being too attached to it. And the rest of me was like, self-esteem was kind of rock bottom and stuff, and kind of like some part of my self-worth being tied up in it.
Yeah.
It's all definitely like, you're definitely taking it too serious at that age, because you don't know your arse from your elbow. So you don't know what you're worth because you haven't lived and you haven't had any real experience by which you can measure yourself, really. So,
like that, when I broke up with the ex, it was you the night before I did it. I was basically talking to you about it because I was considering it, because I think it was at that point the veil had fallen down in front of me, and I'd realised that I'm getting absolutely nothing out of this relationship but heartache. Why am I still here?
I remember being very hard on you about that whole fucking thing. Like,
I was being a fucking idiot, so it was well deserved.
Yeah, you were letting yourself down there. Like, you were getting made a cunt out of now big style.
Yeah.
And you were letting it fly. And I was like, lad, fuck's sake, I would rain fucking hellfire, the like of which the world had never seen.
Well, see, that was a lot of it. I was confusing love with an insecurity or a need that I had, and eventually I realised, wait, now this isn't love. This is heroin. This is going to kill me.
Yeah.
There's no good that's going to come out of that. And that's when I finally put an end to it, and been better ever since now, thankfully.
Yeah.
Best thing about getting your head kicked in good and proper is you remember it. That stays with you, and that you learn a lesson from it.
That's it. Like, you'll only really figure yourself out when you're kind of put to the test, and maybe the best thing in the world for you might actually be a big, hard fucking Ron O'Gara style boot into the ego.
The square between the legs of your being.
Yeah, and now you're going to figure out what you're going to do, because you're like, oh Jesus, I'm in a lot of pain. Why am I in a lot of fucking pain? I know this is all really stupid, and I'm taking this way too fucking serious, but, then you got to figure some shit out, and that stuff will stand to you for the rest of your fucking days.
Yeah.
So it's actually best case scenario, really. And whatever way you want to look back on it, like, don't look back on it bitterly, like it was an experience.
Yeah, you gain more than you lose.
Yeah, the good was good, and the bad ultimately became good because you fucking got to learn something about yourself. So
yeah, you improved your craft, and your armor's going to be better for it next time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, life is such that it's going to boot you in ways that are going to be much harder to reconcile with than this silly shit. So, for as long as you can, when you're fucking young, don't be making fucking life this serious thing and thinking about your fucking deathbed with these fucking people around you and, potential kids, and fucking hell, relax yourselves. Live while you're fucking young, because Christ almighty, like, I'm nearly fucking 33. Like, I'm nearly dead, and it feels like 2 weeks ago.
You're fair old.
Yeah, I am fair old, and fucking I'm only getting fucking older, and so is everyone. And like, it feels like I did my leaving cert 2 weeks ago.
It really does. Like, fucking, I keep getting up in the morning and catching myself in the mirror going, how did that happen? At what point did I become this? I don't remember that actually happening at all. I was just this, and that was it. Yeah.
Like, I know you don't like Star Wars at all, but I'm going to reference a bit Star Wars here anyways, because I like Star Wars, and fuck you.
Go for it.
The 3 latest ones they made, they're shite. They're rubbish, like. But they have one character in it that I really like. Your man, Kylo Ren, played by Adam Driver. He was the best thing about the whole thing, but there's a bit at the start of episode 7, which was the first of the new trilogy, the First Order, which are like, the new Empire in these ones. They're invading this planet and like this village kind of thing, and they're like shooting all of the fucking the locals, and all that jazz. And
as you do of a weekend, like.
Yeah. They're after this one fella anyways, and he's this old fella. Kylo Ren walks up to him, and like it's kind of implied that they've known each other, and Kylo Ren is just looking at him, and Kylo Ren just says, "Look how old you've become." Straight away when he said that, as someone who has got, a sad fixation on death and finitude, when I heard that out of this new villain, I was just like, yeah, I'm sold. This guy's great. I'm on this guy's side. But yeah, that's kind of what happens now. I find myself hearing Kylo Ren's voice in my head when I'm looking in the mirror going, look how old you've become.
It's funny that you said like a fixation upon death, because that's something I'd imagine like a lot of people have, is just most people try to tune it out. They don't let themselves simmer on thoughts like that, where I myself think about it an awful lot, way more than I should.
Yeah, a lot of people, I was going to say most people, but I don't know, is that true anymore? But it would have been true, say, when we were growing up. But most people deal with that via the opiate of the masses, or they had dealt with it when we were kids, say. Everyone was religious. So any anxiety that you had about death or anything like that, you can answer it fairly quickly with... sure, God will sort it out. That's fine. I don't have to worry about it.
You'll be grand. You go to heaven. You'll be fine.
Yeah. I first started having like what I can look back on now, and as far as I can tell from my memory, juxtaposed to my current experiences, my memory tells me that I started having existential crises at like the age of 7, and I remember one being triggered by being in mass and the priest talking about everlasting life in heaven with God, and I started trying to wrap my head around the idea of existing forever, and I started thinking about stuff like trying to figure out how would your memory even be able to distinguish if you're around for so long and things get so far apart, and how would you remember all of that, and kind of just started way overthinking it and start rattling with anxiety because I've actually thought my 7-year-old mind into somewhere a 7-year-old mind shouldn't ever really be going.
Yeah.
Seeing old people filled me with fucking absolute terror. Like I remember seeing my grandparents in the nursing home before they died, and in the hospital and just kind of looking at that and kind of like, Jesus Christ, and what did they do? And it's like, oh, they didn't do anything. They just were alive too long, and this is what happens when that happens, and then you're not alive anymore, and just being
fucking time defeats us all.
Yeah, that's it.
I was actually talking with the missus about this the other day, because like both her grandparents are living, and I just kind of blurted out. It was just like, in a way, I'm lucky that both of my grandparents were dead when I was born, because that's 2 less deaths I'll have to deal with in life, and 2 less things I'll have to grieve over.
Yeah, I've had the same fucking thought.
And it's almost a sad thought, but it's like fucking, you're like,
there's a pragmatism in it that you can't deny.
Yeah, you can't argue with the logic of it. Like,
I mean, you can't say like, oh well, it's better to not be in not be in pain. That's outrageous. It's like,
well, see, that's the thing. That's one of my main focuses of thought when I'm thinking about like mortality, and it's just like, I don't know what I'm afraid of more, dying or having everyone die around me.
Yeah, it's definitely everyone dying around me. Like, fucking, if your lights are out, your lights are out. I mean, you're not fucking worrying about nothing. You're not even aware you were alive in the first place. It's as if it was all a fever dream that,
But even that, I just get like vivid fucking imaginations of just lying there in my deathbed, and I'm like, am I old? Do I make my peace with it, or am I shitting myself on the way out? It's a fucking dark old thought to be pondering on literally daily as well, which is probably not healthy.
Yeah, like the more, maybe it's just the whole birds of a feather type thing, and all my friends are kind of geared towards this thinking as well. But I was even like the last couple of weeks, I've been having conversations with my friend Sally, and we've basically been talking about mortality and recognizing, actually, I must say it now as well. I think every fucking podcast I've been on thus far have been talking about fucking death. It's fairly clear I have a bit of a fucking fixation on it, all right. So
they get plenty of lighthearted banter out of my videos. There's no problem exploring a darker side to life.
Yeah, but I just want to put it out there. I'm not unaware that I'm like a fucking broken record on this fucking topic.
I think they actually enjoy it, to be quite honest. I think that's why you've brought appeal on my podcasts.
So you've got a lot of miserable concepts.
Well, see, death and depression is very visceral, and it's something we all deal with.
If they're not miserable cunts now, if they keep listening to me, they definitely fucking will be.
I don't know. I think there's good therapy in hearing other people talk about it. Sorry, my dog just barreled into the room like a bastard. He pushed up the door. There's a lot of comfort in hearing other people thinking like-minded to you. It's not something you'd strike up in a conversation in an elevator. So like it's rare people actually get to discuss stuff like this.
I've been known to do that.
Well, me, you, and all the other boys and all that, we're fucking, like you were saying, birds of a feather. We're all very similar in their kind of, our thought processes. So us just kind of walking through and going, right, lads, depression wouldn't be greeted with the same horror as it would if you said it to just a group of strangers.
Yeah, we see, I get a kind of a morbid curiosity about, what is it that other people think? And sometimes, like, I might be working with a bunch of people and I don't really know them that well at all, but I can't resist the temptation to just kind of go, do any of you believe in God? And fucking, That's
the gateway drug of dark thought, that is.
Oh, yeah, that's it. But, like, there's something that's more alluring to me because I don't know them that well. I probably have a good idea what a bunch of people I know, even like a little well, I have a fair idea what they'd say, but I don't know, there's something exciting about when it's a bunch of people and, you don't know what they're going to say. Often it kind of turns out to be kind of rough approximations of the same thing. Most people I find nowadays will kind of have an answer that's either a flat out no, or else I believe there's something there, all right, and it's kind
I imagine
of like,
a lot of it's met with don't make me think about this because I'm clever enough to know I shouldn't. When I bring it up with strangers and stuff like that, a lot of it's kind of they're apprehensive to touch off the topic because they've convinced themselves that if they don't address it, then they can still believe, because if they actually think about it logically, they'll realize a lot of it's horseshit.
This is the thing, like, I've gotten kind of such bad fits of existential dread over it and stuff like that kind of the way I've gone as I've gotten older is I've become very empathetic for people who do believe in something, because I see some, I know a handful of people who take it all very seriously and, they're actually properly religious and stuff. Part of me that's trying not to be as cynical as I want to be, and it's kind of going like, fucking hell, do they really fucking believe this? And then I kind of get to the stage where I'm kind of like, if they get any kind of fucking comfort out of this, and I know this is a very dangerous proposition because I'm aware like that beliefs don't live in a vacuum, and if someone is, say, a devout Catholic or something, that might inform their thought process when they're deciding what way to vote on crucial issues like, say, abortion rights or gay marriage or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I'm aware that we have to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, there's
too.
certainly some bad that comes from people being religious. We're certainly not going to deny that.
Yeah, that's it.
But there is another side of the coin that, like, because I'd imagine that's what you're going to touch on. Like, take my mother, for instance, for years when long after I became an atheist, I used to kind of shun her every time she'd talk, it's Mass, we have to go to Mass for Easter Sunday, all this kind of stuff. And, it's Christmas, we have to go to Mass and all that. And I'd be like, it's all bollocks. It's just a made up fucking story. Why are you dragging me all this shit? Like, this fucking thing written by sheep farmers 2,000 years ago, and you think it's fucking gospel, literally.
Yeah.
I was like, how are you not questioning this shit? And then as I got older and started to mature, I realized that, like, that's something I probably shouldn't take away from her if she gets comfort in that, because, if she does believe in that, it'd be a horrible thing to take away her ability to not be fearful of her own death. That kind of way. You don't want to take away somebody's comfort on their deathbed when that day comes.
Imagine what happens now if she's right, lad, and there is a heaven and you get up there.
I'll never hear the fucking end of it.
You'll be listening for all eternity now to fucking, didn't I fucking tell you?
Yeah, you stupid little bastard, and I'm telling you for years then, huh?
You're always a tick little fucker.
Yeah, you always had to be the smart aleck, huh? The old smart aleck. Yeah, you're not very smart now, are you?
Oh, you knew it all. You knew fuck all, boy.
You learned it all on them computers, huh? You learned nothing.
Yeah.
One thing actually popped into my head the other day, and I was laughing my arse off at it, but it was, I'd gotten, the Sonic Sega Mega Collection on the PS2.
Yes.
That has all the old Sega Sonic games. And I remember the first time I booted that up in the PS2 and started playing the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I was booting it. But I booted up the very first level on the first Sonic game, the Green Hill Zone. And the second the theme song started playing, my mother from the kitchen roared, that fucking song. And it turned out she had remembered it from like 10 years previous of me sitting down playing it in front of the Sega, and the Sega didn't have a way to save the game, so every time I'd turn the game on, that was the first level I'd have to pass before I'd go any further, and so it was just that song was bet into her head, and she remembered it after 10 years.
Yeah, it probably triggered some PTSD.
Yeah, she would have got like fucking Vietnam style flashbacks there, like,
Have you seen A Clockwork Orange?
I've not actually, no. That and Casino are like my two movies I need to watch that everybody tells me to watch.
Oh, but Jesus, you uncultured bastard.
I know. Well, I'll bump onto another question.
I suppose, go on.
We'll see if we can find something a bit quicker. Where did PJ suspect both your lives were heading during your time living together? From Fionn, Brazil, is it? Folan, Brazil, asked that question. So I suppose we don't know. I think both of us were pretty fit when we were living together in the flat, the Gaff, as I calls it. When we were living there, we kind of both suspected we wanted to get into film or something creative.
Yeah.
We were both heading that direction, and we'd moved out of the gaff, but me and you had moved in together in Cork. You know,
Yeah.
we only kind of lost half in that transaction.
And then we lost him proper when he got married, and you know, sure.
Yeah.
Hell.
That funeral strangely looked like a wedding, but
I can never make any distinction.
yeah.
Both morbid affairs.
You may kiss the bride, and you're like, all right, lads, 6 of us need to go up and carry him down. But after that, there was a bit of a silent period in terms of where our lives were going. I think I went back to retail, and you did too, actually, during that time, wasn't it?
Oh, Jesus, lad, yeah, like fucking...
There was like a lull in both of our activities there. You stayed in Cork, and I'd moved back to Tip, and...
Yeah, like...
I don't think we really knew where we were going. Does anybody know? You can try and fucking plan it, but it never really pans out the way you'd hope.
I think back then as well, like given the age that we were and stuff like that, I don't think a terrible amount of thought was being given to the future as such. I think back then, I think we definitely indulged ourselves in something that you can't really do as you get into your 30s, where you kind of just say, fuck it, fuck the future, aren't I having grand crack now? And that was definitely the frame of mind that I was at. Now, that's not to say there wasn't an anxiety always in the background going, what the fuck are you going to do with your life? It's kind of something that I'm kind of trying to write into the boy racer characters type thing, because I'm trying to draw from an experience there where it's kind of like, you know, that
right, what you know,
yeah, that being a young fella and having it in the back of your head that like, oh shit, your life's going nowhere, you're a fucking piece of shit, you're a fucking dickhead, just like Mammy said you were.
That riddled me, and it certainly riddled you to a certain degree as well, but I remember just working in Extravision and been there for like 3 years and kind of going, fuck me, I am absolutely going nowhere. I am no further in life now than I was 4 or 5 years ago.
That's the thing.
I'm such a fucking failure in my own eyes, not by anybody else's perspective, but I'd achieved nothing that I wanted to do, you know?
And I think it's very easy to kind of just go to yourself, like, you know, you come home and you're probably living, well, in our situation, we were living with Hef, like, so sure, look, I'll go home to the boys, there'll be a bit of crack, there'll be a bit of banter going on and fucking...
Yeah, you can't argue the antidepressant powers of a gang of boys, you know?
That's it. And that's like... You really don't appreciate it at the time, and it's terrible. There's a terrible reality that you'll only appreciate it in hindsight. You've got it in your head that, you know, you should be reaching towards something else in life. But at that point, it's like, look how simple everything was. Look how perfect everything was. You know, you were just living in the moment in a way that you fucking don't nowadays. And you're probably less likely to go to experience that again. We're just like, fuck it, yeah, I'll go in and do this shite job, and I'll come home, I'll have crack with the boys, we'll go on a fucking session at the weekend, and we'll fucking have mad crack, and we'll do that every weekend for a year or 2 years, or however fucking long you end up doing it. We did it a fucking fair long time. And
yeah, I think it was we were in that gaff for near 2 years, was it?
Yeah.
Like, and I wouldn't mind, like, when I'm drawn for videos, like, I can think of so many good stories within those 2 years, and then it's so much more frugal outside of those 2 years from what kind of fun stories that I have to share, you know, that kind of way, because it's just so much more happened in those 2 years than had happened outside of that,
yeah.
You know?
This will tell you how bright-eyed and bushy-tailed that we were back then, and we couldn't really stop and smell the roses, because nobody does, because at that age you're thick. So we were there one night, and that game Slender had come out, and everyone was playing it.
I remember the night you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I heard this story. This is fucking brilliant. Like, this is great. But there was one of the boys that was living a couple of houses down the road from us, and we knew him. He was living there with
we'll just say his name, Stephen, just for simplicity's sake.
Stephen's house was down the road, and he was living there with the girlfriend, and we had all been playing Slender. I think, were they over at the house maybe?
Yeah, see, the thing was, Stephen had played the game himself the night previous, and I think like it had just released, so it was still at its big stage then as well, so he was aware of the game himself.
Yeah, and we were after playing it as well, and we were like, in fairness, this is pretty class, like, it's fucking a very simple idea, but it's very effective, like, it's fucking well done. And I think it was universally agreed that, like, this is fucking Jesus, you get a fair old shock out of that. Oh, so we came up with the idea that we were going to, like, start leaving notes, like the notes you pick up in Slender, and we were going to start leaving them on Stephen's window, start just sticky taping them to his windows.
Yeah, facing in, so so you can see him from the inside.
And then we were waiting until they twigged them, and eventually they twigged them anyways, and they rang us. Then they were like, here, were you fucking sticking stuff to the window? And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, what's worse, this was like 1 o'clock in the morning as well, like.
Yeah. It's like there's a thing here in the window like it's a yoke from Slender, and we're like, are you taking the piss? Like, and we're fucking, this kind of back and forth. They went around anyways, and they eventually found all of them that were all over the fucking gaff, and they were like, all right, something's going on here now anyways, and they got on to us, and we were like, don't know what you're talking about. I can't remember which one of us it was, but we'd gone to the bother of borrowing a suit.
Yeah, we somebody dressed up as the fucking Slenderman with a white plastic bag over their head, just because the face was out of focus.
Yeah, and just stood on the lawn, stared in the fucking window.
Was it? Yeah, I think, was it not you? I could have sworn it was you. We dressed up because like you had the kind of figure about you. You've always been a skinnier man, like so, and you had the height on you then as well. So I think I would have put money on it was you, but I don't know. I think if it was you would have remembered that. But I remember
this is the thing. Like I can remember it, but I think we might have taken video of it as well. And I think because I was watching the video of it so much, I'm seeing it in a third person perspective.
Yeah. The memory's like, a bit dodgy at our ages now. Like,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But one thing I remember was it was just for argument's sake, it was you. You're over there standing in front of the house, and they hadn't noticed you standing outside. You're standing there for a solid like 10 minutes, and they weren't peeking out or nothing, and we were getting frustrated.
We were really committed to this.
Yeah. So what we did was we rang Stephen, and we're like, here lad, yeah, you know what we were saying about the pages on your window there? Yeah, we just looked out our blinds there to have a look at your gaff, see was there anybody around it, and there's a lad in a suit in your front yard. And they're like, what? And then their blinds open up. You can just see the crack of the blinds open up and then close again. It's just you standing in the middle of the street, just far enough for them to not fully make out what's going on.
I'm pretty sure as you're saying this now, yeah, it was me. Yeah, I remember seeing the fucking blinds flying up now. Yeah, and I was the only one standing there because you were back in the gaff looking out the window at this.
Yeah, just peeking out through the blinds there just so we didn't want to be obvious.
But the amount of effort we went to that night to play that fucking retarded
and it was such an anticlimactic reaction from Stephen as well, but it's still fucking hilarious that we put that level of production value into just taking the piss, like.
It's funnier that we went to the effort of doing that, like, because it was pure fucking stupid. But,
it really was.
You're up to bullshit like this the whole time and drinking cans flat out, fucking playing games flat out. Like the time we were all playing the Mass Effect games, and like there was a bunch of us playing it at the same time. They released that fucking remastered collection, and I played through the three of them again.
I'm halfway through the second one of the Legendary Edition as well myself.
Yeah. I went through the three games. Jesus Christ, that was hard to say. And I was just thinking about being back and like the time we were all there, and we were like, Mass Effect was the big thing that the boys I was working with in the cinema were all playing it as well.
I wouldn't mind. I remember us playing Mass Effect online, and I don't think any of us we certainly didn't hate the online. It was actually a bit of crack when there was a few there, but it wasn't by any stretch of the imagination the best online game we'd ever played. I think we were all just grinding to get the readiness up in the game.
That's it, yeah, and they've taken that out of it now in the Legendary Edition.
But there was certainly a lot of value to be gained from that when any of the three of us were on the same game. There was certainly a bit of crack to be had, like.
Yeah, and it was like the big fucking topic with us for fucking ages. All of us was fucking going on about Mass Effect and fucking.
Yeah, for sure. Even if it weren't just playing online, you could always just wander into one of the lads' room, be it yours or Hef's or mine, and there was a game being played, and you could just sit there and spectate and talk shite, like, it's that kind of stuff you'd miss as well.
That's it, yeah. You've got this mindset about you that, you should be looking somewhere else except enjoying how fucking grand everything is. So yeah,
sure, fucking the amount of stories. Like, the best stories I have with living with the boys was literally from that period, because it's the only place you can draw the stories from. Yeah, stuff like Hef riding like no other man has ever rode before.
Yeah, Jesus.
I think of all my stories, that's the most perfectly recreated scene of the happenings I've ever done.
Yeah.
I have that so vivid memory of us just sitting in the sitting room and him just fucking squeaking away upstairs, and we're like, how the fuck is he still going? Like, it's been 15 minutes now, and like we were getting offended at that point. We're kind of going, Jesus lad, she can think like men can actually last that long. She'll go off and tell other women, and they'll all be expecting that of us, like, and that's just not reasonable.
The thing was, we came home one night with a pair of them, and fucking Hef went up to the room with your one, and he works fast, or he used to work fast anyways, so the job was getting done. And I made the mistake of going downstairs with the other one, and before too long, of course, Hef was up to his old tricks, and he was fucking thumping away above anyways. And sure, fucking, it's very fucking hard to try and take anything that happens after that point seriously, and trying to have a conversation with someone, and all the while she's listening to her friend getting fucking railed above,
getting absolutely fucking pile driven by Hef above.
That's it. And for a finish then, because you know me now, if like basically the effortometer goes above 7, I'm like, fuck this. So I think, I was just like, here I'm going to bed. Fucking, you can have the couch there, and I fucked off the bed for a finish. But there was not getting done.
I'll
that
send
night
Hef
anyways.
down to you there in about 10 minutes.
That's it. Yeah.
He'll sort you out there.
Before he kills your friend.
He's an insatiable appetite, so he did.
Oh, stuff.
He could, like, and it was funny because in the video, he did that, just come down the stairs with nothing but pants on him and just starts guzzling water out of the tap. Like, I was just like, fuck's sake, lad, are you for real? Like, he's just looking at you going, what? Like as if he's done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Sure, don't you last 45 fucking minutes, lads?
Sean Penn looking bastard.
Yeah. I'll move on to another question here now. I might as well call it the last question because
we'll put a fine point on the end of that one. So the fine point is we had no idea where we were going, and to whatever extent it was possible, we were living in the moment. And I think people should fucking do that more, because you'll blink and you'll be in your 30s and you'll be like, oh, shite.
Yeah.
So recognize that you're actually in the Goldilocks zone of life when you're fucking young, when you're like late teens, early 20s. Fuck it, we'll give it the whole 20s. Fucking soak that shit in, because, it starts getting shy.
Certainly be mindful for the future and, plan accordingly, but in the same breath, don't be in a rush to get there.
Yeah, the grave will be up on top of you before you know it, bye.
Yeah, let's see if anything sparks for you, because I've too many, and I think we talked about my one the last day, but this one says, for PJ, what's the stupidest or most embarrassing thing you ever did while you were drunk? And this is from Flex50 Fox on Twitter.
Oh, Jesus.
Is there anything you ever woke up the next morning and went, fuck, I didn't, did I?
It happened many a time over many a different thing.
I know it's a bit of a cunty question, because then you have to relive it telling it, but
yeah, things that I did. Well, I remember.
We'll say if we keep it in the funnier territory. Is there anything kind of embarrassing, borderline funny that you've done?
Yeah, I've got one there, and it's fucking. Yeah, I've got one. It's a little bit dark, but not too dark, and it is funny. Like,
as long as it's funny, that's the only criteria. Everything else is grand.
Yeah, okay. This is one now that I laughed my arse off at it, but at the time I remember it was the most miserable fucking experience ever. But I remember it was around the time of, do you remember Lost, that fucking shite TV show?
Oh, the TV show that was fantastic for 3 seasons.
That's even being generous now. I'd say 2, and some would say that that's even being generous. Anyways, around the time that was finishing up, the very last season, it was coming towards the end of it, and it had been septic. Like, it was fucking terrible. It was fucking shaping up to be awful. But the sunken cost fallacy, I used to get that very badly with stuff, and I'd be like, I'm after putting so much into this now, I'm going to see it through, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But there was a part of me hanging on to some kind of hope as well, that they were going to pull some fucking rabbit out of the hat for like the last
some sort of fucking Hail Mary attempt to wrap it all up perfectly.
Yeah, that's it. And that somehow that it was going to redeem everything. I was just kind of like, I was at an age where like I wasn't so cynical yet. I wasn't open to the possibility that something might really surprise me and kind of go, oh my God, my fucking, my faith has been rewarded. But faith doesn't get rewarded, and this is kind of a story about that. But it was coming up to it was the night of the last episode of that, or the night before it, and we had gone away down to Kinsale, and there was a bit of a rave in a cave on, and we were all down there anyways. A bunch of us, Hef came down, and it was myself and another lad we knew, and we were there anyways, and we were boozing away, and we all got fucking demented fucking drunk. And early the next morning, whatever transpired anyways, I ended up breaking up with a girl that I was with, and took it very badly. I got fucking twisted drunk anyways, and made an arse out of myself a bit. So the next day lands on, and still in terrible form over this, and dealing with a hangover now as well. I ended up watching the last episode of Lost, and it was terrible. It was fucking awful. Like, it was dreadful. And here's me there fucking going like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm after putting the last 6 years of my life into this fucking stupid TV show. And it's like, oh yeah, I fucking broke up with a girlfriend as well. Oh, fuck's sake. I was getting really fucking pissed off about it anyways, and went out that night again because I just wanted to get pissed because I was really fucking depressed, and a load of the boys came out as well, and got so pissed that I fell over into a candle inside in this bar, and I set fire to a load of me hair. And I burned off a load of me fucking hair.
And then like fucking Mr. Bean or something.
Yeah. and like I was falling around in a fucking heap. And I remember one of the boys came over and he was like, "Jeez, are you all right, man? You're in an awful fucking state. Something going on with you. You're fucking seem really down. You seem really fucking out." And I was like, I was breaking up with the girlfriend there yesterday. Like, he was like, "Oh Jesus, yeah." It's like, "After burning off a load of my fucking hair now as well." Like, yeah. And next thing I broke on this point, I was like, at the end of the last was fucking shit. And I was in a fucking awful fucking state. But it was
lost.
Yeah. I was like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The end of last was fucking
I couldn't tolerate torching my hair and breaking up with the missus. But I sunk 6 years into that show.
Gone to a fucking TV show and it was useless. But that same night, I was so drunk that I got up and I don't know what happened. But the next day, I woke up in a landfill.
What, like a dumping landfill job?
Well, it was a big fucking hole that was dug in the ground. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't anything in it at that time. Maybe it was just a fucking quarry or something.
Yeah.
But I went away walking in the dead of night and I fell into a big fucking hole. I was so drunk and I don't remember how I got there at all. Woke up with half the hair burned off. Last thing I remembered was that conversation with your man who was asking me like, fucking, what was the story? Because I think it was shortly followed up by, that maniacal laughter when you're twisted drunk. And you suddenly
like
start to see
a bit of your conscious mind just creeps through to realize the absurdity of your current situation.
Yeah. And you start kind of maniacally laughing about it, kind of going, "Geez, how fucking sad is this like?"
Nothing is going great.
Yeah. And that was in the head. And so probably that night was definitely one of the fucking worst anyway. Yeah.
So at least you can laugh at it looking back now.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking hilarious. Like, I mean, if I was anyway sore about fucking that story, I wouldn't be able to tell it, but I couldn't give a shit. And I think it's definitely gas. And I have a great laugh at past me's expense, because what a fucking dickhead, like.
Yeah. Remember, I broke up with a girl when I was on a night out. And no, wait, that's false. She broke up with me because that stings a lot more. And I was on the night out when she did it as well. What a bitch. Yeah, so I just went straight up to the bar and just started ordering a rake of shots. And I don't remember much after that. I remember making it home, but it was like a silly o'clock in the morning, so I'd obviously stayed drinking throughout the night or whatever, but no memory. I just had like a lapse in time and suddenly I was at home. But I was at home just after coming in the front door. And I was very fucking drunk. You know, when you're doing that weird kind of open mouth breathing when you're drunk, when you're kind of going like... You're like trying to breathe yourself sober.
Like you've been chasing prey or something.
Yeah. Your eyes are closed and your lips are kind of flared out more than they normally would be. Like, like you're trying to kiss a horse or something. But you're trying to like take deep breaths to kind of bring a bit of clarity into your world. But obviously it wasn't working. So I was like, fuck this, I'll head up to bed. But I was so drunk, I couldn't negotiate the stairs. I was like wobbling backwards and forwards. And I was like, oh shit, if I actually try walk up these normally, I'm going to fall back and fucking kill myself down the stairs.
Yeah.
So I started crawling up the stairs. And I think it was about halfway up, memory just cuts. And next thing I know, I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, slumped with my neck pure bent at the bottom of the stairs. I'd obviously had fallen asleep crawling up the stairs and just slid the whole way down. Pure limped. Ragdoll down the fucking stairs.
Yes.
And it was like about 3 hours had passed, so I was asleep on that stairs for a solid 3 hours.
Were you in fucking shit like?
I was in bits, yeah, sure. I think it was like 18, 19 at the time, and so breakups were like amplified all the way to 20 at that point. So
yeah.
I can't just have a breakup. I have to put on a big show to accompany it so everyone sees how miserable I am. That kind of mentality when you're that age.
Oh, well, hang on now. When I asked were you in bits, I didn't mean emotionally. I mean, were you in bits after waking up on the stairs?
Oh yeah, my neck was fucked, yeah, because like my neck was fucked because like I was completely at the bottom of the stairs except for my head, which was sideways against the bottom step.
Yeah. I'd be more concerned about that now, you see. You might wake up in bits after that and you'd never come right.
That at the time I fell asleep in the toilet. But sitting down in the toilet, I sleep for about 3 or 4 hours in the toilet and nobody found me. Like my older brother had gotten up and gone to work. He never used the bathroom when he got up and never found me inside sleeping.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah.
I remember one of the boys, Casey, one time, we went to this session down in Cork years upon years ago. It was actually one of the first nights I kind of went boozing with one of the ex-girlfriends. It was like, the first long-term girlfriend. But so I was in very early stages of that. So I'm like, fucking 18 at this stage. But I remember this particular night, we were in someone's gaff and fucking someone found a pair of, you know, those frilly handcuff yokes.
Yeah. The ones that are kind of, you could get out of a sex shop, but geez, if you put any pressure on them, they'll break anyway.
Oh, not these ones.
Geez, any ones I've ever had the pleasure of been using, the frilly handcuffs, I've broken them immediately.
These ones, they were like, I don't know, someone just glued a bit of frill onto the actual guard ones or something. They were solid, like. But,
maybe something of a connoisseur, because if they've got good quality handcuffs, they're probably experimental, you know?
Yeah. Anyways, before I have no idea where they came from or who owned them anyways, but they were in the gaff. But whatever transpired anyways, we drank into the long hours of the morning, of course, and fucking, we all got fucking transmogrified fucking drunk as per usual. And whatever played out, it ended up in a scenario where Casey was so bad that he was getting sick into the jacks. And as he was doing this, some bollocks came on and stuck the handcuffs on him and handcuffed him to the jacks. So he was now handcuffed to the jacks. And next thing they thought, yeah, this is fucking gas. But like,
they're not wrong. That is quite funny.
Yeah. And the thing was, nobody fucking asked the question of, do we have keys for these fucking things? Because someone just pulled them out of somewhere. Like, I don't think they were meant to be out at all. I think they might have belonged to like a housemate of someone who wasn't there or something like that. No one had any fucking clue about where the fucking key was for this thing. So you had this man who was violently fucking ill from probably alcohol poisoning or something, who's handcuffed to a fucking jacks and in fucking tears about the whole scenario, and fucking no one can do anything to help him. Like he's fucked. Like he's fucking. Do you know that really sad you get where you're getting sick the whole time? Like,
yeah, you've stomach acid torching your sinuses, you're dripping from every orifice, and you just want to be in clean clothes.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and fucking, do you know what I mean? When you're getting sick and like you're sweating like a bastard as well, like you're fucking dying. It's this cold sweat.
Yeah,
like you could see the poor bastard like crying out his fucking eyes, and he's fucking sweating as well. Probably, he definitely had alcohol poisoning. I'd say he was fucked.
I'd say every Irishman gets alcohol poisoning at least once in his life. It's whether he bothers to go to the hospital with it or just suffer through.
I've had it at least 5 times now.
It's not something you do in close frequency to each other, you know?
Yeah, it was all now when I was a fair bit younger, bar maybe 3 years ago at one of the boys' birthday. It doesn't even feel like I fucking drank that much that night, but whatever the fuck happened, I was
just drank enough of the right thing to get you there.
What I find can happen sometimes is it's not necessarily the quantity you drink, but it's kind of the frequency at which you drink it. So you might have only had maybe like a handful of pints and, you know, maybe 3 fucking really strong drinks within very close proximity together. That can fuck me up, like, you know, because I'm not the fucking greatest boozer in the world anymore, at least.
Yeah.
So
I can actually, just made me think now, I could bestow a memory upon you that you mightn't have thought about for a while.
Yes.
No, that's grand. It's a funny one. But we're out drinking in Cork. We're out drinking in Cork, and it was some random flat. I'd never been there before or after. It was you, myself, and a few other people, and then lots and lots of strangers. And I was going to the Jacks at one stage in this house. And I'd walk past a room with an open door, and you and Sally were in there, sitting on the bed with a laptop in front of you. I wandered in, I was like, lads, what are you doing? And you were just giggling like a fucking 8-year-old boy. I was like, wow, what's going on? And you're like, this one, her roommate's gone away, and she's left her laptop logged in on Facebook, so I'm fraping her. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And I leaned over, and you had like put in her status, I think it was, just took my dad's load to the face, LOL. Yourself and Sally were just sitting there fucking just coming up with things. What was it? You'd started, through her account, flirting with her cousin, her male cousin, over chat and everything, just to see if he'd actually go for it or not. Just, you know, you're like, I've always had feelings for you. I know we're cousins and all, and I shouldn't be thinking about you like that, but I have. Just to get his reaction. You're just absolutely destroying this poor girl who left her laptop open.
Yeah, and I hadn't a clue who she was either.
Yeah, no. So, that's a fun memory I have of just like, you know, going to the Jackson and just find you giggling like a child with Sally in the bed there, just framing somebody.
I did that some amount of times to some amount of fucking completely and utterly random people.
Was it your ex? You had framed your ex once before, and I think what it was is you had messaged her best friend through her account, asking her, any chance I could borrow a pair of your knickers to sniff? That was it. You changed her profile picture to a giant horse's cock.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
You had a level of style about your frape, and I'll give you that.
I had a kind of a signature that I kind of used to leave after me. All right, yeah.
Yeah, there was no question. It was definitely you with requests like that. Like,
yeah, the big old Mickey is me calling card. Like,
could you imagine if that was the norm? Like, a girl would message her girlfriend and say, "You don't have a pair of your knickers I can borrow to sniff there."
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no bother, girl. Do you want your ones back? Wait, what? But yeah,
the gusset 8 out of them.
Just gnawing on the gusset like a bit of chewing gum there. Just a question, I suppose, before we'll end it out. When are you getting on your podcast now, lad? Because I think that's something you're going to strive at once you commit to it.
Well, the last one that I did with you went down very well. And actually, funnily enough, there was a fair audience for it. But again, they're all coming from your channel, like, so.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say all, because you're bound to have a good percentage of your own audience that are more organic, you know? It's like, granted, I did give you the shout out on that, but that's one video that I published ages ago now. You surely had a lot of your own people trickle in, like. Yeah,
well, sure, even the highest viewed one on the channel is the one where you're in it, even still, and the majority of my subscribers probably overlap with yours as well.
For now anyway, lad, until you strike it big yourself.
I'll be waiting on that, hey. Like I was saying, I suspect the content is beyond niche, and I have no intention of change. Well, I am actually open to suggestions for other types of video to make, maybe, because, the fucking animations, Jesus Christ, do they fucking take long.
Well, one thing I've gotten into recently, and you've probably seen it pop up on your feed every now and again, is live streaming. I've done a fair bit of live streaming over the last month or two, and that's actually quite enjoyable. And just because you were saying with the podcast, you could hear a bit of anxiety in yourself. Listening back to my first, second and third live stream that I did, I could hear that in myself as well, but a lot of that's kind of performance anxiety, because I'm used to doing stuff like this where I can say whatever the fuck I want and then filter myself, between me and my audience. I can delete stuff that maybe I think won't go down well. You kind of have that option in place. So there's a bit more pressure when you're doing that kind of shit live, but it's like anything. You do it enough times, it becomes more natural and you don't worry as much. You're more liable to say something that will offend people if you're worrying you're going to say something that will offend people. If you're much more yourself, you can explain yourself with anything you say and, give your understanding of why you said it. That kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah, but sure, the old podcasts anyways, I suppose. I suppose I'll go back to them. I'll give them another belt. I might do one with Dara, because I've done a bunch of podcasts with Dara before. So.
Did, and you were telling me the last day, that lovely chap whose name has just eluded me right now, who the author that did the piece on myself, yourself and Dara.
Brian O'Neill, yes.
That's the one, yeah. I read through that after you told me the last day I was talking to you there, and it's a very flattering piece, I must say. I was delighted reading it.
Brian is a lovely man, so he is. Big shout out to Brian if you happen to be listening.
What I'll do is I'll actually link that article in the description of this on YouTube there. People want to go check it out, but it's a lovely kind of piece that gives a review of myself, PJ and Dara's channel. He was very kind about it, which is nice in these modern times when normally it's fucking hit pieces you read online. It's rarely people have anything nice to say about somebody. So I found it a very enjoyable read.
Well, I'll tell you, it is support, like comments and emails. Like, I've been in contact with Brian over email and stuff, and just when someone gives you kind of that kind of feedback, and you kind of can tell that they're really into it and they really enjoy it, and that's very gratifying. And it's kind of the thing that will kind of keep you going when you're trying to push the boulder up the hill that is fucking YouTube.
It certainly is. Yeah, I did get a lot out of that, because there's a good percentage of my audience that are on the younger side, like teenagers and whatnot. And of course they're going to like my videos and comment and so kind of support me in that regard. And I don't want to shit on that, but I value the opinion of somebody who I believe is an intellectual person who can break stuff down and still say nice things about it. I value that a lot more than what a 12-year-old might have to say about my video.
Oh, half the subscriber base drops out now.
They don't actually. The majority of my audience is fellas in their 20s, but like there's a small majority that's also teenagers, as well as a smaller majority that are in their 30s and 40s. But it's like primarily lads in their 20s, and then teenagers, and then 30-year-olds.
Yeah, I'm after hearing this fucking this mouse that keeps coming in around the place. I've been trying to catch the bastard.
Have you named him?
Fuck it, I haven't.
You should name him. Remember Gerald blowing the flat in Cork?
I do. He was a grand lad.
Yeah, he sound out. Never stuck around though. He'd only just say well to you in the morning, then run away.
He'd fuck off. Yeah.
He'd fuck off to the flat upstairs.
Yeah, he appeared a handful of times and he fucked off, and that was the last of him. But this lad now, he's been appearing and disappearing, and There's no rhyme or reason to the fucker. And I've put down those, like myself and one of the boys in the house, he has the lethal traps down because he don't give a fuck. And I'm a soft bastard when it comes to fucking furry critters.
Yeah, as would I.
I have the fucking catch and release traps down. I'm trying to catch the cunt and fucking ship him off and just put him outside.
Yeah.
Probably get fucking mauled by some cat and a way worse.
Trying to catch him there, get him back on his feet, get him a job.
That's it, yeah. See where it all went wrong. So when did you start breaking into houses?
Yeah. When burgling houses, and I was thinking, it's around that time I got addicted to cheese, man.
Robbing cheese. I was cheesing. I started cheesing when I was about 3 weeks old.
Yeah. What we'll do is top comment on this video on YouTube gets to name the mouse in PJ's house.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't fucking take the bait and go into one of my fucking traps, he'll be dead mouse is who he'll be.
Oh God!
I think
you're secretly a father. You are. Yeah, you've done a dead mouse. Yeah, with your dad jokes.
Oh, that's what that implication was. All right. Yeah. But there was no other way. Like, you couldn't say, he'll be a dead mouse without dead mouse, like.
I'm not responsible for this dad joke, right? I just said it.
Yeah, you couldn't not say it. It was so self-evident that, like, I'm not claiming it was a good joke, but it's
right. Scratch that comment section. He's now dead mouse.
Yeah, that's it.
Whether he lives or dies.
He live as he died. A dead mouse.
Schrodinger's mouse.
Yeah.
Right, sure. We're going to leave this one here. Thanks very much, PJ, for joining me on a podcast. I want to extend a thank you for on the fans' behalf, because I'm sure they're grateful of it. Grateful of your company.
I'm glad someone is.
We'll cut this one here. Thanks everybody for tuning in and listening, be it on Spotify or Google Podcasts or iTunes, wherever you may be listening to this. And I will catch you in the next one. Take care.